So, hello everybody, this is Michelle Chalfant, and I again am cheating on Pete. I'm going rogue and I am interviewing someone without Pete today. And this is a really special guest today. And this is someone that I have known. Her name is Connie Weiss. Someone that I've known probably, how many years, Connie? Probably maybe 7 or 8 years.
At least.
Connie is someone that I used to see in yoga class together many, many years ago and walking on the path, beyond the Y, and just bumping. And you took a few classes of mine. And one day, it was in March of what year?
2013.
2013. I was sitting at home and looking at my email, and I got an email from Connie, and I didn't know why, but she was requesting to come in and start seeing me as a client. You said on a weekly basis, I think. You said, I need you, and I'm coming in on a weekly basis. And what I didn't know when I opened up the email, because she didn't say in her email, was that she had been diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And that we were going to be working together on that from the beginning of her diagnosis all the way till the end. So this podcast today is about really looking at the adult chair model and how we can plug it in even to, or even with a cancer diagnosis. And how did we use this for the time that you and I were together? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Connie Weiss, and I'm just going to let her kind of tell her story, and I'll do some interjecting and ask some questions, but she's got a fabulous story on her journey and how she used the adult chair with her cancer. So go ahead, Connie. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. First, let me say that the adult chair was invaluable to me.
Wow.
And the understanding of the fact that I was not just thrown to the wolves in this.
Yeah.
It helped me to get my balance and bring me back into my body. And that's the main thing. When I was first diagnosed, of course, I was panicked. And I was shocked, like everyone else is when they get that diagnosis. And I remember the first thing that came to my mind was that I needed to heal as a whole with the body, mind, and spirit. Mm-hmm. And in that, I knew that I needed the help of a guide like Michelle.
Wow. So
I had my medical team for my body. Mm-hmm. I felt like my spiritual life I had already been working on it. I had gotten a yoga teaching license a couple of years before. And I had really been working on the spiritual part. I needed more of that plus the mind to get through this and to totally heal myself. Mm. And so I emailed Michelle and told her that I would like to work with her throughout this journey and see where it goes. And I needed her help as a guide. And as we went through the process of this, I had a radical mastectomy, both breasts removed, and total reconstruction. And I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which is an aggressive form of breast cancer. It's very invasive. And so I underwent 16 rounds of chemotherapy. Mm. And it was very aggressive as well. So with the surgery and the chemo, I would come in weekly to see Michelle, and she would help me with what I felt I needed that week. And many times it was just help me get through the door of the chemo ward. Mm-hmm. Just, you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And how we were able to bring the adult chair in to help this panicked adolescent move into that building and allow the chemotherapy to come into my body.
So for someone listening to this for the first time, and they've just learned that they had cancer or they've been diagnosed, what's the first thing that you can recommend for them to do right away?
What I found to be invaluable was when I was able to come into my body again and not push it away. The minute I was diagnosed, it was like I was afraid of my own body. Mm-hmm. So I felt myself leave and just push it, like I can't deal with you. Mm-hmm. You're over here and I'm over here. So I feel like it's invaluable if you can bring yourself back into your body, love yourself, and be there with it. And stand there with your body and say, we're in this together. I'm not going to split from you. That's invaluable. It's hard to do. It's hard to do, especially when you're in pain and when you feel sick and all these things are going on in the body. It's hard to stay in there. But I feel like that's number one importance, because in that you can work through it much, much better.
Which I would think, and I know even someone that might have, lower back pain or a knee pain, I know when I get monthly cramps, I get angry. I'm like, why is my body doing it? And that's typically what we do with a mild pain. I can only imagine having a diagnosis like this and again, I have not gone, thank God I had cancer, but that you'd be angry at your body for doing this to you. I understand the split you're talking about. So I like that. So the first thing then would be to change the self-talk or become maybe aware or mindful or conscious of what am I saying to myself? Because I think that we do forget that we're one being mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. We are one being and we take our bodies for granted. We do. We take our bodies for granted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. These vessels carry us around our whole lifetime. How often do we sit around and say, thank you, eyes, for helping me see. Thank you, legs, for carrying me through my whole life. Thank you, feet. We get mad, though, when my feet hurt, right?
Yeah. So
now more than ever, it would seem that we need to bring ourselves more conscious, again, which would be in the adult chair, and be conscious about, okay, so let me work together with my body instead of becoming separate, even more separate from it. And just on a little side note, even to think about disease and illness. I mean, in my opinion, when we are emotionally out of balance for a very, very, very long time is when physical manifestations occur.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
I knew there was dis-ease in my body before I was ever diagnosed.
Right.
I knew that.
Yeah.
And it just manifested in the heart space.
Right. Which people that know chakras,
yes.
The fourth chakra, the heart chakra, sits over the center of the chest, and it is where we give and receive unconditional love. And so many of us are wonderful at giving and terrible at receiving. I mean, that's part of our human condition. I think we don't know how to receive really well. Okay. So the first thing that would be helpful for people is to really learn that their body is not the enemy, that their body is actually here with them and for them and wants to become healthy and back in balance. But really what happens is it needs a little help.
And it's giving what I learned in my experience. It's giving you information
right,
that you need to go on with your life.
Right.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
So it's speaking up.
Yeah. So instead of disassociating and rejecting our body, we really want to look at becoming one again with the body. Okay.
Right.
So after the initial shock and again, probably rejecting the body and getting angry, tell us more about, so then you had to you went into the doctors, obviously quite a bit and going in, starting your chemo. You want to talk a little bit about that, or is there a different?
Well, that's when, you go through the shock and then the fear sets in, and it's debilitating fear. Mm-hmm. It's like nothing else in the world matters. You're so afraid. It's just, it takes over.
Yeah.
So everything is around that. Mm-hmm. And it's this big cloud that's over your head you walk around with, and you're constantly, and I call it, I remember when we were going through all of the sessions and we were calling the adolescent Addie.
Yeah.
And we were saying, how is Addie today? And she was always just frantic. What if this? What if that?
Right.
And so this is when I found it helpful not to read a lot of material.
Yeah.
On the internet or anywhere, because you want to be informed, but yet I think you can be too informed.
Right.
So I kind of went with my gut on what I needed to ask or read or whatever. And I got the basic knowledge that I needed from my surgeries and what they told me was a fact about my diagnosis, what the stage was, what they were dealing with, what I was dealing with, what I was going to have to go through. So I had all that basic knowledge, and I didn't feel like I needed to read more into it and read other people's fear.
Right.
So,
because it only sends you into more fear.
Oh yeah. And Addie, the adolescent, was constantly, feeling every little thing was something bad. Oh no, you had a pain in your arm. That's probably something too. That's probably what if it's this? What if it's that? And so I remember what we worked with when that kept happening, because she was maddening.
Yeah.
And I remember you said, think about what is the truth. What is the truth? Not all these what ifs. Because the adolescent chair is constantly saying, what if this? What if that? Oh my gosh, you better watch out. You better not do this. You better not do that. Everything is just frantic. And so it was my goal to not stomp her out totally, but to quieten her down. And,
so how did you... So wait, I want to interject one thing. For people that are listening to this for the first time that have no idea who the adolescent chair is, number one, you can go to one of the earlier episodes of the podcast and listen. But in a nutshell, the adolescent chair is the part of us that is known as the ego that sits in fear. And we sit in what we call the adolescent chair when we are in this fear. And there are a lot of personas that come up from this chair. And this is what Connie is referring to. Is the part that's like, oh my God, you're going to die. This is going to happen. What's this pain mean? Blah, blah, blah. And it's very fast talking. Right.
And the one session you sat here and looked, you told me you have never said the word cancer in this room.
Yeah.
And I never realized I did not ever say it. Yeah. But I would always talk around it.
Yeah.
And the one session that was really powerful was when you said, I want you to say what this is. I want you to say it.
Yeah.
And when I was able to say the word cancer, it freed me.
Yes.
Because I didn't realize I couldn't say it. I never said it.
Yeah.
But when you said, I need you to say what it is. And I said, when I said it, it was like this weight lifted off me. I can still remember, once I said it.
We don't like to own the things that feel or look bad. So that it's scary to you. So why would you ever want to say that word? But you were giving it all your power.
Absolutely.
And I knew that. And I said, when you say it, it releases everything and you regain your own power.
It was huge.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I would recommend, being able to say the word and not just calling it the C word, which a lot of cancer patients do.
Yes. And here's the thing, and I've said this before, we can say a sentence from the adult chair, which comes from fact or truth, or we can say it with pity or being the victim from the adolescent chair. It's the same sentence. It's like, what energy am I putting behind it? So we can say it, right? So you can say, yep, I have cancer, but I'm moving on with it, or I'm looking ahead versus the pity party or the poor me, which is more that adolescent chair.
Oh my gosh.
And the fear is built up all around it. So,
well, and you also said in that same session, which was very, very helpful, you said, okay, so what are you afraid of? And I said, I'm afraid of dying.
Yeah.
And when I said that, it was another very powerful thing to boost me forward.
Yep.
And then you said, okay, so what if you do die? And I thought, oh, I can't believe you said that. But, right. I remember you saying it and I was sat there and I thought, okay.
We want to follow those fears because, again, when we're in that adolescent chair place, the egoic place, it's got all these stories and assumptions, all these ideas about, well, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And it's like when we own it and it's like we're busting those stories.
Absolutely.
And it's like a screeching halt in the mind. The mind doesn't know what else to say because it's had this great story going on for all this time. So
that was powerful.
Awesome.
Being able to say the word cancer, that I had it, and being able to say, I am afraid I'm going to die.
Because it's true.
Yes.
It was fact and truth.
That's what the fear was. Yep. That's what the fear was. It was not the fear of the treatment or the surgery. I didn't want to do it, but the ultimate fear was dying.
Yep.
And when I said that, it was like the rest of the time as I was going through, and this was a year-long process from start to finish in my diagnosis, my surgeries, all my chemotherapy and everything. It was about a year.
Yeah.
Going on. So a long time.
Yeah.
But luckily we got to this fear pretty early on, and I was able to just, use your guidance the rest of the time to get myself through the door over in the chemo ward and those kinds of things.
And I remember talking with you about, the nurses would say to you, and this is where we want to maybe introduce a little bit of the power of the mind, the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. The nurses would say to you, okay, so after you get this chemo, expect to feel this.
Right.
You're going to feel whatever. And then we talked about, or I don't know whose idea it was, but you said, no, thank you.
Yes.
I don't want to hear it. I would recommend that. I think you would too. Don't listen to what they say because then the mind is expecting that to happen.
What might happen. You might feel this. You might have that. I learned early, and I know it was probably from
really early.
What you suggested to me, that you don't want to plant these things in your mind because then they're always there and you might not ever think of them and it may not ever happen.
Exactly.
So for me, I said, no, thank you. I don't need to know these side effects that might happen. If they do and I have questions, then I will contact you. If not, I won't. So really, I figured everything that happened was a direct result of the chemo, but I didn't need to hear what else might happen.
Yeah.
And it was much more helpful that way.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not like you had your head in the sand by any means.
No.
However, but you went through this year-long process in a very unique and different way than most people. You went in with a doctor. I remember you telling me, even with the doctor, sometimes you're like, wait, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to know what is probably going to happen again. And they've done studies on this with people that if the doctor suggested that you're going to feel fine, that there's a really good chance that you're going to feel fine the next day. If the doctor says you're going to be vomiting for the next 3 days, you'll be vomiting for the next 3 days. So what if you just didn't hear it and you had the idea, well, I'm going to feel okay. I might feel tired, but I'm going to be okay. And we found that happened to you quite a
Absolutely.
bit. Talk a little bit about, and again, I don't want to put support groups down because I know that they're good for some people. And I think it's where you are, in your journey or on your journey. But for you, what was your experience even with cancer support groups? And perhaps it's about finding the right one.
I think it is.
Because I'm sure there are some good ones out there.
Right. And my sister has been a part of a very good one.
Okay. So why don't you explain to us what the difference is between a good one and one that might not that it's bad, but one that might not serve someone as well as another? What would be a good one?
I feel like it's more supportive if the group is definitely on a positive plane, because my experience was one time I went and everybody went around the room and it was the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it was, everything was negative and everything was really, really, really low energy. And there was no positive feedback. It was all based on everyone spouting out about what their worst experience was that week.
Oh, wow. Which just from an energetic perspective, that keeps us there.
Oh, I had never felt so low.
Yeah. So if I'm talking about all these negative things, it keeps us there emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Yeah. We get stuck there. So did you ever find any sort of supportive group, or just your sister had one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I attended hers a couple of times.
And you even said you had a shift with maybe some relationships in your life.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to share any of that? And even, this is another thing that I think would be helpful for people, but how do people interact with you? Or how did they interact with you? I remember you saying people didn't know what to say, or...
Yeah, people don't know what to say.
Right.
And a lot of times they say something that is not appropriate just because they don't know what to say. And throughout my experience, I changed a lot because I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to evaluate what's important and what is not important. And so many things that I thought were important before this were no longer important to me and haven't been to this point. My whole perspective changed on what I wanted in my life and what I think when you receive a diagnosis like this, you immediately think, well, I'm going to, you hear this all the time. Well, I may not have much time left. I'm going to make it right. I'm going to do this, that, or the other. Well, you go through, and you're lying there thinking, and it's like, my time is going to be spent now on things that matter. And so a lot of the things that I was doing just to fit in to society and fit into a group of people, or maybe I should do this, or they're going to get mad if I don't do this, or they're, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That all fell to the wayside. And so a lot of relationships just deteriorated, and I no longer have them because I decided that my time was better spent doing other things and not filling my time with things that really didn't matter. So yeah, a lot of relationships.
They did
changed and went away.
Yeah.
I remember telling you one time, I'm not going to have any friends left. And you said, oh, you will. But, there will be a few from this group and then others will come in, and that's been the case.
Well, because we change when we go through it's a life-changing diagnosis, but any sort of big change like this in our lives, then we start attracting in people that are a match for who we are. Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing you say is you learn how to put yourself first. You actually, I'm going to guess, began to love yourself.
Yep.
So then people reflect that. So if people aren't living in that same way, not even with cancer, but just with more self-respect, more self-love, more self-care, right? More holistically, then they're just not a match. It's not that they're bad people.
No, it's not about that.
No, they're wonderful people, but they're not a match for who I am. So those people do fall away, but new people do fill in and take their place.
Because you don't have that common bond you had before.
Right.
Because you were all in your costume for the world.
Oh, yeah.
And if you shed that costume and you go to who you really are, and what you really feel, then you don't have that bond to them anymore if they're still there.
Do you remember the moment that that began to happen for you?
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
I do. I saw, it was like suddenly I looked around and things all looked different.
Mm.
And I don't know, it's an awakening. It's just a knowing. And even during the time that I was, for several months when I was undergoing chemotherapy, my mind was so mushy. Just everyday tasks and chores and things I had to do were confusing and gave me a headache, and I didn't have the energy for it. But what I did have was a clarity in what I knew I wanted for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And what was the truth and what was all of the facade and all of the costuming and the armor and everything fell away.
So how did that happen when you said something about connecting with your child, or tell us about that time in your life?
I feel like what happened after working with you and understanding how this is, my child self had been locked away for 50 years, I think.
Yeah.
Because of trying to fit into different groups and society and going through life and, saying you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and just learning from your family and other people and how to fit in.
Sure.
And so you go through life all these years, and then what happened to me was, as I became more aware of what I wanted in my life, my authentic self, which was my child, began coming out of that closet she had been in.
Mm-hmm.
So she just became more prevalent in my life. And I knew who I was and who I wanted to be from this point forward.
Wow. So you dropped your masks.
Exactly.
You really recognized who you were trying to be,
because it felt comfortable to me. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And I felt like I fit into that glove, and I dropped all of the when you go through something like this, it's like, I don't have time to waste anymore.
Yeah.
Thinking, I'll do that tomorrow.
Right.
Or I won't say that because, I'll make up for it tomorrow or the next day or the next week. It's like, no, right now I'm going to say this. Right now I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Everything comes to the present. Everything comes to the present.
Yeah.
No more future in that.
Yeah. So you were more present moment and able to speak truth.
Yes. And feel authentic.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you don't really care what anybody thinks at that point.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I don't have anything to lose here.
Right.
So,
right.
If they don't like it, too bad. I'm going to speak what's my truth. And
beautiful.
it feels so comfortable to do that when you know you're coming from your authentic self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Powerful.
But it's a shame you have to be hit with a 2x4 like that to get to that point in your life. Because I feel like I would still be in my costuming from before if I had not been knocked down with this disease.
Yeah, I think that in one way or another, our soul leads us where we need to be to have that shift. Because I know, I mean, I live the same way. I have not had cancer, but I strive every day to live without that mask. And it's hard. You're right.
And some of us, like yourself, are able to come to that without experiencing a major life-threatening disease or whatever.
Sure.
And then some of us are not.
Yeah.
So it's whatever we need to get there.
It's like we take this journey through life and we look outside of ourselves to find peace, to find joy, to find happiness, to find love, all of these things. And at some point when we start taking that journey and we turn it inside of ourselves, we start touching truth. That for me is addicting. I mean, that's where I want to live. And that's then where this model, this is why I'm talking about this model, because anybody can learn this and learn how to live from that place or that space. Again, so going in and getting that chemo and meeting with doctors, you went in absolutely, yes, with fear, no doubt. I remember that. But also what we added to that was when we live in this adult chair, we go in being conscious instead of unconscious. So you could have both. You could have fear, but you're conscious about it. And then you would go in and, again, you'd say to the nurses or the doctors that were administering the chemo, as well as having your meetings with your doctors and not wanting to know all the negativity that was coming for you, possibly, right? But in addition to that, when you and I would work together, sometimes I remember once or twice you wanted to go down to the beach and your blood or your cell count was it red or white?
White.
You needed more white cells.
Yeah,
right?
The white blood count was very low because that's what chemo does. It really, really beats down all your white blood cells.
Yes.
So.
And yours were really low.
Yeah.
And was it your birthday or something? You wanted to go to the beach?
Well, I had planned a trip for the day my chemo was over.
Yeah.
And I did not want it delayed.
Yes.
So when your white blood count is really low, a lot of times, this is what they do. If it's too low, you don't get your chemo treatment.
Right.
So that sets you back another week.
Yeah.
So I was not going to let that happen.
Right.
Because I had my trip out there waiting for me at the end of this. So I told you, this is not an option. I am not going to delay this any longer. So no.
So we had so I offered you something that I've actually done with other people. The mind is the most powerful thing, and we can put it to really good conscious use when we intend for whatever we want. And when we're conscious, we actually have a focus on what we want. So for you, we said, okay, so you want to go to the beach. You need more white blood cells. Let's amp those babies up. And I remember, didn't we thought they might look like, and this is when, if you're going through this treatment and you need more white blood cells or anything, remember the power of your mind, because it can change test results in no time.
Yes.
And I've seen this happen multiple times with other people that I've worked with.
Me too, because I've shared it.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you needed a blood count of X. I don't remember what it was, but we imagined, and I think I remember dumping them in your heart or some little Gumby men that were white blood cells or something. We just had an image of what a white blood cell
They were like little Pac-Men.
Yes, Pac-Men. Mm-hmm. And we dumped them in your heart. And I just said, okay, here they come. Let's dump thousands in there. And then we envisioned them multiplying. And then let us know what happened when you went back into the doctor.
Well, every night for a week before I went into the next treatment, I would lie in my bed and I would envision this army of these little Pac-Men, and they were white because they were white blood cells.
Yep.
just building and building and building and shoveling and working, and they all had on hard hats. I mean, I remember it's whatever relates to you as a person, but to me, that was what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I did it every night religiously. I went in to get my blood drawn to see if they could do the chemo the next week, and it had gone way up. And they were like, they didn't understand it, because normally after that many treatments, it would be down again.
Like really low. And I remember you saying,
I mean, it doubled.
It was like that. I mean, they said a healthy person or something.
It was close. It was normal, which is not normal during chemo.
It shouldn't be normal.
Yeah. No. So it was, and I just laughed when they told me, because it was like, I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was.
The power of the mind.
Yes, that was really powerful.
Yeah.
Creative visualization. I mean, it is.
I mean, they've done so many studies on this too. And laughter. They've talked about people. I remember hearing and reading studies where they were diagnosed with some kind of terminal illness. And one woman, I remember hearing it on NPR or something. She sat around and watched funny movies every single day. You remember this? Mm-hmm. And she went back in, I don't know how long after, a month or two, and her tumor or cancer, whatever it was gone. And she had not had any treatment at all, but she had laughed for 2 months straight watching these movies. So
it raised the energy in her body.
Yeah.
If you sit in the low, dark energy, it doesn't build anything up.
Well, if we're going to talk energy for a minute, think about not to get all physics on everybody, but the vibration, the energetic vibration of cancer is very, very, very low. Mm-hmm. So when we're having emotions that are much higher, love, laughter, gratitude, appreciation, that kind of thing, it's not a match for cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's such mind trickery, because having such a diagnosis can send us into a very low emotional state. So our goal is to get out of that low emotional state. However, to honor when we are there. But if we're there, I don't want to use the word too long, but you know what I mean.
This is when I go back to being in your body.
Yes.
Because what I was able to do and learn about myself, and I think it's powerful, is if you are in your body and not pushing it away, I knew when my body needed to rest and be calm and just be there, and it was okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to be running outside or doing all this stuff to keep myself in a positive state.
Yeah.
I could also be resting and telling, my body, I hear you.
Yeah.
I know you need rest to heal. You need rest for this chemo to work. It was okay. And I'm not the kind of person that lays around the house.
Right.
And so that was hard for me.
Right.
But I had to be able to be in my body and feel, okay, it's time to rest. And this is good. And this is okay.
Yeah.
And then if I felt like I could go out and walk, I did. Mm-hmm. But listening to your body and understanding that it's okay to honor what your body is telling you, because it tells you throughout this cancer stuff. I was able to know, okay, I need to go lie down. I need to rest. I need to close my eyes.
Yeah.
Or, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go for a ride. I'm going to walk. So it's not, you don't always have to be working out or feeling like you need to be doing something active in order to keep your energy on a high level.
Right.
You can also, if you're able to listen and rest and let your body heal and revive itself and love it while it does that and feel okay with it, that also brings your energy up, even though you're not moving.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think you have to be moving in order for your energy to be up. That's not true with vibrational energy.
No. And you taught me something. I remember you said one time you came in and you said, you were talking about taking a shower.
Oh, yeah.
And how taking a shower had changed for you. And
Yes.
I do, as much as I remember, the same thing now. Can you share that a little bit? Because that was powerful for me to hear. And I was like, wow.
When I became aware of how much I love my body and I was back in my body again, I was able to, I was so grateful for it. It was just a huge feeling of gratitude. And I remember the first time I would be like, when I would wash my arm, I just looked at it and it was just gratitude. I am so grateful for that. And as I went over my entire body, and even the part where I have all these scars now and, doesn't look the same, all that kind of thing, it was just a gratitude that I feel to this day for this body that I'm in. Because what it has done for me throughout that period 3 years ago and on, it's back in its well state where it wants to live. And I'm so grateful for the work that it does for me daily.
Wow.
And so, if you're able to, and part of the thing I do with yoga in the class that I teach is we go through each part of our body and bring our awareness to that part. So the body feels that we are aware of it and not neglecting it, not ignoring it or taking it for granted. We're aware of it and thankful for what it does for us daily. So that's huge.
Wow.
Big.
Yeah, it helped me a lot. And I remember hearing you say that. And I really take a shower much differently now than I had prior to hearing. And I thought, yeah, you're right. We do. I'm in and out of that shower so fast.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. But now I've slowed down and I do have that appreciation as much as I can remember. What about, again, we kind of touched on this earlier, but we talked about the physical body. We've talked about mentally, using our imagination and visualizing things happening. Let's talk just for a minute about our emotional body. That is one part of us that we're not exactly in touch with. And I know from the work that I do, again, like we said, when we're emotionally out of balance, it could lead to physical manifestation of some kind, like a cancer. Okay. So can you talk at all about your journey of learning how to get back, not only getting back in the body to feel the physical body, but also to start feeling emotions? What was that like for you? Did you do journaling? And I know you and I did a lot of inner child work together. But how was that for you in starting to reconnect? And I would just encourage anyone listening to this to pay attention to what you're feeling, emotionally speaking, not just physically and include physical. But there's an emotional side of all of us that we very much want to push away, especially when it doesn't feel good and when we are scared and angry. And that's that little inner child part. And when we're pushing that part away, we're pushing those feelings away. We're pushing the little inner child away. We need that part of us to heal and to feel complete and whole and live a holistic life. So is there anything you can share about that?
Well, I remember what you had me do.
What did I have you do?
To get the picture of myself as a child.
Yes.
That was one of the first things we did.
Yeah.
When I first came to you after this diagnosis, was to get to that emotional part through looking at a picture of myself as a child. I think I had a picture of myself when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Right.
That I connected with every day.
Wow.
By looking at her. And this was your suggestion.
Yeah.
And it was very helpful because I would look at her and I could feel her.
Yeah.
And then think about, and this was another thing you brought me through, was to think about what is the emotion she is feeling right now.
Yes.
And, a lot of times we throw out these words that are not emotions.
Like what? Give us an example.
I can't even remember, but I would go through 3 or 4 words with you and you would say, no, that's not the emotion. The emotion is this, that, or the other, which you get down to either fear.
Well, oftentimes when I ask people, hey, what are you feeling what are you feeling right now? They might say something like, I just feel like I just kind of want to, I don't know, go to dinner or something, instead of, what is the emotion behind that?
And that's what we do. When you did ask me, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to do this, and you're like, no.
I'd like to go to the beach.
Yeah. But
it's something we'd like to do, and that helps to reconnect us again at deeper levels. That's why I want to bring this up. Mm-hmm. It's part of the healing process, whether we have cancer or not. It is part of our life journey and part of the process of awakening, the process of enlightening, whatever you want to call it. It's part of our healing journey and our life journey to reconnect to even the part of us that's emotional. It's a key part.
Yes, yeah. I agree.
Okay.
And it's been very helpful to me because I'm never connected to that.
Yeah, most of us don't. Yeah, we want to push away all the negative feelings. But the fact is if we can feel the negative emotions that we have, they actually come through us instead of getting stuck in us. And when we have the fear or shame or whatever it is that's sitting inside of us, and we're not allowing it to be physically felt, emotionally felt, then what happens is it does get stuck. And that is where disease can form. So when we allow ourselves to go there, and I'm not saying to sit in it for a year, but allow yourselves to even touch on it, it helps it to move. Just recognizing that it's there and naming it. And that's why you and I did a lot of that. It's like,
yes.
What is that feeling? Tell me what that feeling is. What is the emotion? Naming it. And then when you say, hey, where do you feel it? Where do I feel it in my body? It might feel like your throat's knotted up or knot in your stomach or your chest feels heavy. Notice that. Sit in it. Allow yourself to be in it. And then guess what? If you sit in it and breathe, guess what? The throat isn't so tight. The stomach gets less knotted. And all of a sudden we feel peaceful again because it moved through.
And that's what I did. That's what we worked on. And that's what I learned to do was to sit with the emotion of, it was most of the time fear.
Yeah.
And feel it.
Yeah.
And let it pass.
Yeah.
And it does.
It really does.
It's huge.
Yeah. And then also to recognize, so when we're sitting in that adolescent chair that's based in fear, by the way, making up all those stories, we want to oftentimes, again, whether we have cancer diagnosis or not, tell that part of us to shut up. Mm-hmm. And, instead, what we want to do is listen to it. Like acknowledge again that there's a part of us, and it's just a part. It's not all of us, a part of us that has all this fear. So let's listen to that story. But if it's going to go on and on, we want to go, okay. I hear you. It doesn't mean we have to buy into it. And did you listen to the podcast on Who's Sitting in My Adult Chair?
Yes.
Or my adolescent chair?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
And then we turn and we know that part is just trying to protect us.
Yes.
And when we can love it.
And when you said to me, it's necessary to have that, I thought, all along you're thinking, no, I don't want that chair. I don't want the adolescent. I want it to be gone. But we have to have all three.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, the adolescent needs to go away. I'm beyond that.
Yeah.
But,
unfortunately, no, it pops up.
It's for safety.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think I gave you the example. If I'm going to walk out of my parking lot here at work and I'm leaving, to get in my car and it's 9:00 at night and it's dark out, I hope that fear rises up within me. So not that I'm paralyzed, but that I'm more cautious. So I don't ever want to get rid of my fear.
Right.
But I don't want it to paralyze me either.
Right. Well, and how it goes with dealing with cancer, you don't want to sit in that adolescent that's sitting there saying, what if this, what if that, you could have this, you could have that. Every pain you've got is cancer, You don't want to sit in that, but it's been helpful for me to be aware of, from this point on, look at this, make sure it's okay, because I need that.
Yes.
I don't want to just push it away because I need to be aware.
Yes.
And I need to be able to, throughout my life, recognize when things might need to be looked at.
Right.
So.
And when we're in our adult chair, we listen to what's coming up for us, the part of us, remember, that's in the adolescent chair, and we become an observer of it, but we're detached from it. We're not buying into that story. Because remember, that adolescent part of us speaks from an average age, emotionally speaking, of a 12-year-old. So it's really scared and coming up with all kinds of stories. And we have to remember that and then detach from it in a healthy way and go, hold on a second. Let me decide what's fact and truth right here. Because these stories are not truth. They're stories. So to detach from that, I remember being, again, helpful in my life, but very helpful in going through such a diagnosis as this. Great. Okay. So.
Well, and let me interject this.
Yeah.
Just one thing. 3 months ago, I had a scare because I had some scar tissue show back up in the same breast. And it showed up in the form of little nodules, which are scary to somebody that's, been through cancer. So immediately I panicked. But knowing what I know now through working this model, I was able to allow my adult self to come in and say, wait a minute, what is the truth? What are the facts? And when I did that, I was able to calm down, and it came out to where it was only scar tissue and nothing bad. So, I didn't waste so much energy in that fear all the time as I did before, because I was able to calm myself, using my adult self and saying, okay, now wait a minute. What do you know for sure?
Right in this moment.
And I didn't know anything until they went in there and got it out and looked at it, So, wait a minute, don't get ahead of yourself, that kind of thing. So
what a good mirror just to show you how much you had changed.
Oh, it was a huge difference. I was very proud of myself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. When we ask ourselves what's fact and truth in this moment, it takes away the drama and the story. It brings us into the center of where we are right now. And it just changes everything.
And it's so valuable.
Yeah. And simple.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to remember to do it and ask ourselves that question. So is there anything else you want to add?
I think the main thing is, I keep going back to, throughout something like cancer, and there are a lot of things similar to this in life. If we're able to get beyond the fear and the panic and just sit, it's so important to just sit with the feeling and then take a breath, get into your adult chair, and once again, what is the truth? What are the facts? And then move yourself in the present and don't go out there, what if?
Right.
That's where you get caught up. If you can just move daily through it and not go beyond it, I think that's the biggest lesson.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really hope this podcast extends far and wide, because I think your message will help many, 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 many people. So thank you. I know there are going to be people listening to this saying, how do I talk to this Connie Weiss? So you have tell us about what you're offering. You have a yoga class that you teach.
I've been a yoga teacher since 2009. And after I went through the cancer experience, I went to Minnesota and got trained in cancer care yoga. So I have that endorsement on my license now. And I just allowed it to kind of evolve. And now I have a cancer care yoga class, which is, it's for people that either have been diagnosed with cancer and are already on the other side of it, because it's helpful even after you've gone through it, and also people that are currently going through the treatments and things. So anyone that's been diagnosed with cancer at any stage in their life, this class is very helpful. And it's a different type of yoga. It is not just postures.
Yeah, I can tell.
It involves getting yourself back in your body and bringing awareness to your body, bringing awareness to your soul. And through postures or asana, and as well as meditation and just awareness. And I teach that class. The Brentwood United Methodist Church is gracious enough to give me a room there. And I teach that class in Brentwood, Tennessee on Monday at noon.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to take that class, but I'm not allowed in, I guess.
No, you're not.
And then if someone might have questions for you, are you open to maybe answering some questions via email?
Yes.
We may have to do a part 2 podcast too with all the questions we're going to get. But so perhaps if any of you out there have a question for Connie, her email address is
Connie Weiss at Comcast.net.
So ConnieWyss at Comcast, which is COMCAST.net. And all this information that we just were speaking about will be in the show notes. So feel free to go there and check that out if you'd like more information on Connie's process or yoga class or any questions you may have for her. You're more than welcome to reach her there at her email address. And if you have anything for me, you know where to reach me. You can either reach me on my website or Facebook or YouTube. So thank you, everybody. I hope this was helpful and look forward to hearing your comments.